Oh, yeah, I guess you would.
But just kind of both keeping us informed so we know where we're at.
Right.
Which
You ready,
they
Chris?
have done before, so very informational.
Yeah.
So we're going to start today's meeting just a few minutes after 4. We're waiting to see if Bill's going to come, but we do have a quorum, so we can get started. The first item we have on our agenda is approval of the agenda. I do have one addition to the agenda, which is to request funds of $600,000 from the Perry County American Rescue Plan to the advisory committee. So I'll have Chris write that up. If we'll add that to the agenda. We'll just put that as number 8. We'll finish with that. Is there any other additions to the agenda? If not, I'll need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I second it.
Got a first and a second.
Yeah,
With the addition.
I'm sorry.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Approval of the minutes. Carol gracefully did the minutes for Bill since Bill was out sick last time. And everybody should have gotten a copy of the minutes from the last meeting.
I'm going to abstain because I was out, same reason, ill last month. So
Okay.
I'm abstaining from this particular.
So we need a motion to
I make
approve
a
the
motion to
minutes.
approve them.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes have been approved. Update on the TIF districts. Hasn't really changed because we haven't had any new allocations come in, and I don't think really many expenses going out. TIF allocation 1, $255,704.24. TIF allocation area 3, which is the Wapaka TIF area, $771,961.22. TIF number 4, which is the Webb Wheel, $254,237.92. And I'm assuming that anything that's gone to the school has been written, Pam, correct, at this point that you know? Anything that's been invoiced? Okay. 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 The TIF number 5, which is a Riverview West, which is actually right in front of Wapaka, is $3,484.13. Tell City 1 and Tell City 2, there's none because that has not actually been activated at this point. So we just keep those in the record. I'll give everybody a brief update on the apartment complex, Mr. Smith's apartment complex. We did finally get from him the final check. It's been deposited in the account with the county. So the contract at this point is on its way. I talked with him earlier this week to figure out what his start dates are going to be. It looks like it. I'm guessing, he said first quarter, I'm going to say the end of the first quarter of 2022. And I'll keep in touch with him on a month-over-month basis to make sure that he stays on track with that. He did send us some renditions of what the proposed building will look like. Actually, next week, Chris, Kale, and I are going to meet with him and just have a conversation of some of the exterior things to see if maybe we can have him spice that up a little bit for that district especially, because it's in that downtown district. So Chris has been pretty active. Chris Kale has been pretty active from the city standpoint to make sure that it kind of molds into what would be pleasant for the downtown area. Yes, Chris.
We haven't done a deed yet, but I assume he wants to wait a little while on that yet.
I'm assuming he didn't say anything. He does have all of his financial approvals. He's looking at somewhere around the $2.6 million for the project. And as we all know, that is this project there's no restrictions in terms of income, so it's going to be totally open to anybody in the community that wants to rent the apartment complex from him, which is really, I think, what we're after, especially down in that area. Kind of looking forward to it. It's going to help alleviate some of the housing issues that we've had in the past. So we are on course there at this point. That is definitely on track.
Did we talk about what those units will be ready for, dollar amount?
I have not seen that number
Okay, I
yet.
thought you-
I'll keep getting that information from him. The estimates he was given, I think, at our meeting they were going to be very reasonable. I thought they were going to be very reasonable. So, but I don't know. And what I'm gathering with him, huh?
I was thinking he said something around the 800.
Yeah.
So,
I'm guessing he's still kind of figuring some of that out from what I'm gathering. Is that a fair statement?
I would say
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. But it looks like everything, the approvals are on place. We're still under contract with him. So, Chris, but I don't think we release that deed until they're finished.
Unless he has to have it for financing.
Right,
I would agree.
yeah. I would feel more comfortable because there's still some obligations that he has to fulfill in order to
So
do it.
if he requires it for financing, then we're going to need to do a separate deal with him on the
Correct.
requirements he has to fulfill.
That's
to make
correct.
sure he's bound by
That's
that.
correct.
Yes.
Yes. So that's where we stand with the apartments, and I think that's still a positive thing. The update on our housing conversations, I'm going to call it project at this point because I think it's kind of morphed into a project now with the Perry County Memorial Hospital property. If you don't know where that is, that's the 231-37 intersection. There's about 16 to 17 acres in there. We requested last time for some funding, if you all recall, to at least get a kind of a site survey, site plan put together, which we actually have today. Mr. Simpson completed that for us, I should say. So we have that. It looks like there's we're estimating somewhere around, I think it's 15 lots. It's 15 lots. I think it's laid out very nicely, if everybody wants to look at it. I didn't make copies because it's still kind of in the works. I've been working with the hospital, looking for a topographical survey. They have not found one yet. I talked to Erin today. We're working, maybe there is one, maybe there's not. If there's not a topographical survey, what I'm going to ask the commission to do is approve some appropriations so we can get that done. According to Calvin Cash, that should be around that $5,000 mark. But I think we're going to have it in order to get this thing to lay out. If we already have it, we're not going to spend the money on a new one. I mean, I think we can go into this very cost effectively. If we can find them, we're going to use it. So I guess I'm asking for another appropriation if needed for a survey of up to $5,000. So there'd be a survey and the topographical survey. It's different than the other one.
You did the 5,000 for the
Yeah.
site survey, so now you're saying another 5,000.
Yep, an additional. And I don't think we're going to use that whole 5,000,
Okay.
the way it looks. I kind of skinnied him down on that. So,
Good job.
it's part of my job, I guess. So from you all, I will need somebody to,
I'll make that motion, Dave.
we have a motion for that.
I'll second it.
We got a second. Any other conversation, discussions, thoughts?
That's up to the 5,000 if needed for
Yeah,
that survey.
up to, yeah. He gave me a number bigger than that, but I'm going to tell him that's where we're going to be.
You're calling this one typographical?
Topographical, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
And we
we'll
may
find
not
one.
need it.
We may not need it. If we can find an old one, we're going to use it.
Yeah,
Okay.
there should be one somewhere.
That's what I keep thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I keep thinking. But I don't want to have to keep waiting and to get it. I would rather, if we don't have it, we can get it done very, very quickly this winter, so as we get into the spring of 2022, we can continually push our plans forward. Because the next step on this is once we get that, I think we have a very good layout, if it lays out topographically now, is to start getting some idea of the cost of the infrastructure. So just kind of a reminder for everyone, if you haven't been following this conversation, the thought of this commission has been, don't let me speak for y'all, but I will if you let me to, is to get the streets and the utilities laid out in this section, have lots available to builders. We don't care who they are, quite frankly, as long as they're a reputable builder. We will put parameters on the style of home and the size of home, so that we're not just building something on top of something that doesn't look nice. It'll all be single family, so no duplexes and that sort of stuff in this piece of property. Then once we get that done, we can open it up to any builder, quite frankly, that wants to build on it. When a lot is sold, once we get all the math figured out of the portion of the property sale of that home, will actually go to the Perry County Memorial Hospital, because they own the property, which is a county entity. So all we're going to try to do is upfront some of the heavy cost of getting it put together. That's really, I think, the objective of this commission. Is that fair?
You said you have parameters.
Yeah, we'll have parameters on
You mean,
type of housing.
what are we anticipating, like the value or the cost of that?
I mean, anymore for anything, it's about or $250,000.
I was
You know,
thinking that
$250,000 is is I think kind of the beginning prices on a lot of these houses.
I know someone who was, they're in the market to buy or build a house, and their budget is 250, but they've looked, they can't find
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, and I think part of the parameters are going to be, you know, and I think that's something that we're going to have to work through those details, is, you know, is it how much brick, how much not brick. I think we're going to have a square footage perimeter. You know, can you do outside buildings, can't you do outside buildings? You know, as you get into that, there's a lot of things I think we have to really digest and get correct, so that you don't create an area that's really, really nice, an area that's not very nice.
Refresh my memory, where are we going to apply for to get the money to do the utilities and distribution?
Well, there's a couple of places, and one of them is agenda item number 8. If we can work through this Perry County America Rescue Plan, there's some money there, and I think, and I've talked to Alvin about this, that we may be able to use some of the TIF money to do it, as well as I know he has a project that he's working on now, and as I told him, it's not an all or none deal. We're going to have to be able to do both.
Well, wouldn't it be possible too, to whatever the lot is, we got to figure, we got to, you know, pay the hospital for it, but build in our cost of.
We could if it makes economic sense, because we don't want to start pushing those prices too high again.
No, but, you know, the money's going to be a big factor.
Money's always a big
Basically,
factor.
we're
Yeah.
looking to subsidize.
Yeah, money's always a big
Oh,
factor.
yeah, it is.
Yeah. But, you know, we're gonna, as a county and a commission, you know, we're fortunately, you know, we've been able to pay down a lot of these old bonds, and I know there's another project up in front of us, but we're gonna have to figure out both. And that means we're gonna have to get very, very efficient with our dollars, quite frankly, Paul.
Why don't?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a choice, because we can't have one without the other. We have to do both. And I think we can do that. But we all have to work together, and we have to keep the lines of communication open in a very outward force, not inward.
I got one more thing to add, and I think, Aaron, you may know something about this. Perry County was part of a region that applied. That region, we're part of it, Pike, Perry, Du Bois.
Mike, Perry, Spencer, Harrison.
5 counties.
Yeah, 15 million.
Ready.
We got to decide how to split it up, but again, this is another way that we may be able to look at funds to help subsidize these
There
lots,
was
and,
infrastructure for a lot of housing. That was
yeah, and, you know, our whole goal of this is we've done quite well with industry, right? We have. The taxpayers have funded a lot of stuff for the industry here, and our goal is to hand a little bit of that to get people to move here in residential housing, and I do not have a problem. It's like Paul's talking, I don't have a problem giving lots away if you're going to build a home here. I don't have a problem with that. We're subsidizing these residential, just like we've subsidized these commercial and industrial contractors.
Absolutely.
For people.
And
I keep that in focus. It's to attract people.
And we
What's
actually are
making it
giving,
worth it?
we
Come
would
here.
be giving lots away, because any cost of the lot would go to the hospital anyway.
So I just want to keep that focus, is to bring people in.
Keep saying that local builders, aren't you gonna sell to whoever wants to?
Correct.
buy a lot?
We,
They
yeah,
don't
yeah,
just builders?
that's correct, but if Keith Huck wants to build a house there and you have a builder,
Correct.
here's the specs of this home, and you bring somebody in to build it, bring somebody in to build it. Or the other option, and we've actually had some inquiries from outside builders, I'll tell you, I've gotten some phone calls, and I think they would come in and they would build spec houses. They would,
As long as they met the spec.
as long as they meet the specs, they would start building homes, and not just one. They would come in and build several homes at a time and sell them and build several homes at a time. So there's a lot of options in here, and my guess is if this works, these things are going to go relatively quickly.
And we got to keep in mind, we invited,
No.
I would think they would, but I keep trying to reach out to the local builders and say, look, here's an opportunity. You know, we don't want to leave anybody out here, because I would love to keep, if we could, 100% of the dollars spent here. You know, I'd like to see the heat and air folks, the plumbers, I'd like to see all them out there working, quite honestly. But if they choose not to participate, we're not going to stop. Is that fair?
Without that.
So they've been invited?
they've been invited.
They're always been
to 3
invited.
meetings.
They're always been invited. And, you know, and once we kind of get these spec lines, I think what'll end up happening is we'll do a public meeting and say, here it is. Here's the parameters, we're gonna go. We've got a ways to go yet, because we still gotta figure out some costs. We gotta figure out how what the payments are gonna be. We gotta figure all that stuff out. I'm not a builder by trade, but we'll figure this stuff out. And once we get it down, I think we can duplicate it.
I've seen some of your projects, they have that.
Well, thank you. I think you worked on some of them, Keith, so it's okay. Yeah.
So, I know I'm skipping ahead to the line, which is ARP, but you talked about repeating and duplicating it. What is the process of having the funds to duplicate? What is the revenue stream so that you can do the next one and the next one and the next one?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. You know, what I'm hoping is that maybe, depending on where the properties are and who owns the properties, because I don't think it's our job to develop private properties, okay? I do not think that's our job. So what we have to find and look at is what else do we have that's a public entity, and is that in the city, is that outside the city? I don't know that yet, but I think if we do this and we get the parameters, at least we got to start. So we know there's 91 acres. We'll have to see how that ever goes. But I'm sure there's other properties that lie somewhere within our jurisdiction and within the county that we can find as time goes on. I've gotten a lot of calls from private individuals, you know, and again, I don't think that's our place. If they want to develop it privately, I think they need to, and I would like to see them do it. I've talked to Chris Kale about this in terms of tap-in fees and that sort of thing. How can we alleviate some of that cost? So it's not just this. This is an encompassing deal. Okay, this is just not this thing. This is going to hopefully keep stretching out.
They could use residential TIF, but somebody's got to buy the bonds.
That's correct.
You got to have the right developer who's willing to do that.
Correct. So somebody's going to have to come in with some serious money.
That's right, because it all depends on how quick you sell lots.
And we have to get, in some cases, we have to get government out of the way in order for us to do this, but not give up safety and security at the same time. And I think we can juggle all that, but once we get kind of a platform to figure it out, I'm hoping that's where we can start duplicating some of that process.
Well, we gotta get started, we gotta try something. I think Greg expand on what I mentioned about, about the revenue streams for future projects. And also, you gotta be careful about what role or how involved should government get in the private sector of the housing market.
That's correct.
You gotta be careful with that.
And that's why we don't want to own the homes.
Right.
That's correct. That's correct. So there's a lot of details that we still have to work through, but I think the general idea is kind of in place.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have to, and some legalities, which Chris will help us with, some legalities on what we can do and can't do. I think that as I keep thinking through this, I think it's something that has not really been tried very many places. It has been sort of tried in some areas, I do know. So trying to reach out to some of those folks to make sure we don't hit any pitfalls that they found. I think they've done one of the similar up in Princeton area.
I was saying, let me know.
Yeah, I think somewhere up in the Princeton area they've done something similar but a little different. So anyway, that's where we stand on the housing at this point in time. So we'll keep digging down on this survey, the topographical surveys. If we can find one, great. If not, we can at least get one done so we can get this thing rolling into 2022. I put on the agenda a little bit of the review of 21 and kind of looking forward to 2022. I think that's, we've been trying to be very transparent in this group. And as I was going through 2021, and please fill in the gaps because I may have missed something. So if I missed something, please fill in the gaps. But I was pretty impressed with all the stuff we got done last year, quite frankly. The one thing I think we've really been able to pick up is the transparency. We've been trying to get more information out. And we're continually working on that from a public standpoint, trying to keep the communications and the need for growth, because that's been kind of started the topic in December of last year and rolled into 2021. I still believe our numbers I think the city of Tell City needs to be around 10,000 people. I think the county needs to try to get themselves to 25,000 minimum. And I really believe if we don't get there over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to struggle on everything that we have, from the hospital to local government to the school corporations. we're just going to struggle because it's unfortunately is a little bit of volume, but we have to figure out how to grow correctly. Okay, we have to grow correctly, and that's kind of what we're taking this time in order to do that. That was part of our conversation last year. A lot of this conversation we just had on the housing development, that was a big part of a lot of our discussions last year. We were able to refinance the Wapaka bond issue and clean up some bills there and get everybody flush last year without really hurting us from the standpoint of financially. We continually are able to fund some things for the Perry County School Corporation, some things that they definitely need. And I think last year was some fire protection issues and some video.
Alarm systems.
Yeah, alarm systems. And I think some of that clean air inside the school was panned into last year too from the antiviral systems. We were able to help them put on the systems to help our kids. Got the apartments finalized this year for downtown. I think that was a big plus because we were kind of lingering there, but we finally got that pushed through. This group here was able to visit some sites. One was the Wapaka site. We visited a couple housing sites, so we're starting to get some visual referral of where we want to go and what we want to do. The creation of really the beginning of the creation of this potential subdivision on the Perry County Memorial property, I think, is a big plus. So those were some of the things that I recalled as I went back through the notes. Is there anything I'm missing that we did last year or this year, I guess? I just think it's a good idea to review. That way we know where we're coming from. So as we looked into 2022, here's some of the things on my mind. And as I've kind of half-heartedly kidded about, but I am pretty serious. I think this board right now is a very functional board, and for any of that's involved, I would like to see it stay intact because I think we're doing some really good things. And I think we have difference of opinions at times, but we can have those conversations and we can work through what's best for this community. So I'll put that out there. So what we're looking at for 2022 is continually the housing project, getting the topographicals, getting all the proposals in, figuring out what the cost is, then creating a plan to move that forward, and then turn around and solicit interest in building. Of course, we're going to solicit the cost estimates. Discuss and review plans and cost estimates for the Wapaka sites, the sites that sit in front of Wapaka. That's got to be definitely on the top of the agenda also, because unfortunately this commission also provides most of the funding for those sort of things. We still have on our agenda to discuss and repay the web wheel bonds early. It looks like it's probably going to be August of 2022, July, August, depending on when those pay dates are. We need to continually support the Tell City Township School Corporation for its educational needs and safety needs. I think that's a priority. Hopefully by this time next year we have people ready to move into the apartment complex. We'll see.
I was going to ask you, did he give a approximate completion, anticipated completion date?
I'm just trying to get the start date, Paul.
We can get started.
I'm working on one thing at a time.
If we can get started about April or so.
According to the contract, though, he should be done by this time next year.
Okay.
I've got it may pan into 2023, but
Yeah.
it should be pretty well done by this time next year if he follows according to what we've asked him to do. How's that? Huh?
Shortages don't kill.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty patient on this thing.
Oh, very patient.
I think exceptionally patient. So hopefully he won't take advantage of us. If he does, we'll just have to start pushing. So my hope is, yes, this time next year we can look at him and say, here we are.
It's just going to cost him more and more too, the more it's delays.
Yeah. So I think that'll be kind of exciting, actually, because we haven't really had anything like that for a while. And then I think the back line is we have to be able to plan not just housing, we have to be able to plan employment opportunities. Everybody's got the same problem, no employees. My theory is in about 9 to 12 months, some of these people that have come off, the 6 million people that have come off the workforce are going to have to come on because they're going to run out of money. So hopefully that will help us all. know, we've got some challenges with some industry around us that are probably going to continually keep pulling employees away. But we have to figure out a way to create an environment here that people don't want to leave. And I think we can do all of that. It's going to take the work of this commission and the commissioners and the council and everybody else in order to do all this stuff. So I just hope we keep reaching out and keep keeping the transparency so that we all work together and not try to fight each other. Even if we agree or disagree, we can't fight each other. The common cause is the common cause. Maybe I'm a little sentimental, but I really believe that's the case. Couple more items, and this is more for all of us. I've asked each one of the folks on this board if they're interested to get their letters of reappointment together so we can hand those in tonight. And again, I really believe that this has been a very functional board, and I've been pleased to be a part of it. But I think as time goes on, we need to keep the thinking process going. We threw out some ideas, thoughts last time, and we're going to continually work down those thoughts. Last item on the agenda, and I'll have Chris prepare this legally, if you would. We're asking the Perry County American Rescue Plan Advisory Committee. It sounds like they have already thought about housing, and they've tried to put together around, and we're going to ask for $600,000 from that COVID relief package, specifically for housing, and allow this commission in order to use those dollars to effectively create housing within the community. So I'm going to ask Chris to prepare that document so we can push that on to that committee so they have it as a formal request.
A resolution.
Yeah.
A written resolution.
Yep. Do we need to vote on that, Chris?
Yeah. Both main things we've always asked on those is sustainability. We give you 600. Okay, what's the next one? And the other one is plan.
Well, and that's what we're working on the plan. So we've got at least the layout of the plan. So we will be submitting that. That's where we are at this point in time, and we'll walk through the thought process. And I will publicly say the sustainability number one is going to be part of that sustainability is going to be tax revenue, if you will. And
Not against it?
no, I'm just we'll just say it's out there. But that's really where we're trying to do is increase tax revenue.
Not against it, not saying it won't work, just those are the things we're going to.
Add almost 4 million.
What's that?
I said they'll add almost 4 million, do 15 houses at
Yeah.
250,000.
Do what?
Deadline. Do we
Did-
need, because if I do a resolution, we probably should approve it at the next meeting, which I assume will be January or something.
When is the deadline?
Okay, so that'll be fine, not for that. no.
Okay. But if they wanted at least a request, we could send them something and then do a
Yeah,
resolution.
if it's approved.
Yeah.
Obviously, the sooner the better always.
Yeah, what we'll do is we may just send them a letter of interest and then do a resolution in January. Is that fair?
We have spent 1.2 or earmarked 1.2 for grants that we've not, just this is county. And then we've also earmarked, is it close to $400,000, 385, whatever it is for the software.
For the software.
385.
And then another six
$6,000.
just to run the grant program.
Yeah.
There's another 1.7.
Yeah, so-
And
so-
we got 4 years.
So we'll send them a letter of interest and then we'll do a resolution in January. But I think we want to stay on top of it because if, that's going to help us juggle both of these really fairly large projects. And I think the finishing up the sites in front of Wapaka are going to be a very, very large project, but I don't know because I don't have any of that information. And I keep pushing for that information, just so you all know.
And transparency, the last question I would have, when you give me that, is why not step? So that would be the other thing to answer to whatever letter you give us.
We'll do that.
Again, not against it, just those are the things I want.
No, we can answer all those questions
I like them, that's good.
in an understandable way.
John?
What's that?
Are you gonna tell cities they are picking up for that any money?
No, we're not, because this is in the county at this point.
Corporate ones.
We have had we've thrown some ideas to Tell City on help improving housing, but it's going to be kind of a different style for the city of Tell City to work on. So we're putting together some thoughts for them, but it's not really going to affect this commission, no.
There are a lot of large tracts of open.
No, but I think there's some things that So the whole idea, if you look at the whole picture of housing as an example, is what can we all be doing in order to increase the probability of it to happen, okay? So this is one. Some of the things we're talking about, I'm talking with Tell City about right now is another, which has nothing really to do with the commission, quite frankly. It's just conversations, because our commission only does what our commission does here. But it's still part of the planning process of growth. Does that make sense, Chris, or Keith? I'll get it out eventually. So,
I just still,
yeah,
I think that the lot size, without even seeing the drawing, the lot sizes are too big. And the prices are gonna be, not say high, comparable, but it's not what I thought it was gonna be.
and see, that's where we can continually tweak this.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
The lot,
Well,
people who
we
want to
talked
build
about it
there,
outside,
and
after the last meeting.
they don't
And
want a
these
big
younger
yard.
people want a nice house, but they don't want to have to go out and buy a $10,000 lawnmower to cut an acre of grass. They want a house that they can rest in, have a party in. They don't want to, you know.
So, and that's part of having these conversations.
And
See,
if you had, you know, I'm not saying there's room for 30 lots, but if you had 30 versus 17, hell, you're down there cutting half the price of the lots.
Yep. But you have to be respectful to the division also. So I think there's going to be,
There's a happy
yeah,
medium.
there's going to be a happy medium, and I think what's going to happen, which was the thought process of the 91 acres, is you may have that in different sections. Smaller lots, larger lots, kind of a mixture with inside that same area, because of how the property's going to lay.
I mean, I didn't say they need to be, but.
Yeah.
I'm not
No,
gonna-
I think it's a good
I
idea.
don't know, but,
I think it's a good idea.
You know, I don't like houses real close together.
Yeah.
Some people don't care.
Correct.
I want to clarify one thing that I said too, like, you know, but when I talked about TIF, why not a TIF? That's not a new residential TIF, that's like Will and those other things that we talked about.
Yes, and that is on on target for that. Yes, I got a feeling we really won't. I don't think we're going to know this until we know what the dollars are. Once we know what the dollars are, then we can say, okay, where are we going to get the money in order to do what the commissioner, the county needs to do in order to promote this. And that's so I don't know. I wish I could tell you the answer, but I don't know.
I'm not.
I have ideas what it's going to cost.
I'm just saying those are the kinds of things.
But I don't know.
see being asked.
Clarify to me, when you say, we as the commission, the ARP commission, are looking for
No, no.
sustainability.
I, every time I make that statement.
Excuse me?
I on the
Okay.
committee.
So when you're looking for sustainability, and we know sustainability is we're trying to increase our growth, we're trying to increase our tax base, we're trying to bring more children into our school, but in them just saying those three things, you just said to Pam, you're gonna spend $380,000 on software.
No, wait. I said, how are you gonna sustain it, or where's the revenue? Basically, I wanna know, what is the sustainability of it? And your comment was taxes, and I shook my head like this. I said, yes.
But where's the
Because-
sustainability on $300,000 in software?
Well, the sustainability there is one, that we needed to replace that, and that does not fall into that same category.
There you
That's
go.
what you're
Thank you
asking
for clarifying. That's what I
It's
did.
the same category that you're falling into. This is a project, and on projects, we have asked for sustainability. On all the projects, from anybody we've asked for sustainability.
But you don't ask for it on the other things.
That is a different type of project. And that came from Luke in the sense that that is actually something that we needed to do, and it's money that the county lost. That's a totally different
Yeah,
project.
so we got like 4 buckets.
Totally
What do you mean
different
lost?
project.
Excuse-
When we
I'm just
lost
trying to
revenue,
learn.
we lost revenue.
Gotcha.
We could have took all 3.7 million and gave it to the county for lost revenue. Not granted
You're talking about
anything
lost
project.
income taxes
Yes,
from COVID.
from
Yes.
COVID.
There you go.
So it's a totally different bucket, Tony. Don't mix the two up. That is-
Well, that's why I'm asking you these questions.
Now,
When
this
I hear it in
to
the
me-
same word, I want to know what sustainability is for us.
This to me is a project, and in the sense of project, we have looked at different ones in the sense of 2 different ways.
Okay.
One, you talked about a cookie cutter. Okay, so you got the stamp, you got the cookie cutter, right? How you do it again? One sustainability would be, I've taken the revenue from doing this one cookie cutter, now I'm gonna apply it to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. That's one form of sustainability.
We don't know if we can do that.
Now,
We can't do that.
That's one form. Second form is, you said, these are tax dollars, these are students in seats. That is sustainability in the sense that I've spent $600,000, but now I'm getting $200,000 every year in taxes and students in seats and everything else. And I definitely shook my head this way on that because that counts for me. That's a project that is sustainable in the sense that it continues to bring this county
Income taxes for people
Right.
that live here.
Yeah,
So
income,
there are
property.
different forms of sustainability.
When those people move,
But I
they
can see
Yeah.
that so that I can justify handing you $600,000, okay? Again, I'm not against it,
No, yeah, you-
but I have to see it and be able to justify it. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
that does. Thank you for clarifying that.
That helps, helps me figure out how we
Is there anything else, folks? Paul?
We mentioned we need an additional 5,000.
Yeah,
Do we need a formal motion on that?
Oh, which one, I'm sorry?
we did, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, got
We did.
that.
Okay, we had the first one, but on the second one?
You already
Yes.
did the other five.
We had already done that. We did that one at the last meeting,
But we had
Paul.
more conversation.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
more?
We did that one at the last meeting.
Yes.
So the question
Last
is now
meeting,
whether you're
okay.
gonna do approval of this 600,000 request.
Right, yeah, yeah. And we'll take that from the same district, Pam. That last one, be the same way.
From
Yeah,
TIF one
yeah,
also.
yeah. Anything else? It's Chris's birthday, so we got to get him out of here tonight.
Really?
You gonna vote on that?
That is your birthday?
It is my birthday.
Yeah, we're not going to vote on it, though.
Did you hit
I've already had happy birthday.
58?
Did you?
I second
I'll
it.
make the.
9?
It's got to be 58 or 59.
60.
You're not 60.
Nine.
Oh.
Stop.
Well, you kept doing that. I'm going, where are we going to go with this?
Damn it, Joe, he's only 1 year older than us.
So the letter of interest.
That's 2.
For the ARP funds, is that?
57.
I mean, you're on the ARP, so I know you're speaking for yourself.
You
But
speak for them.
the letter of interest, is that enough to, or do they need to come to the meeting as well and talk to the entire board, or how does that need to work?
It's always better if you have representation.
Yeah, so-
I will say that David's at most of these meetings anyway, so.
So but we'll do a formal letter of just saying yes, and then we'll we'll actually, whenever you have a meeting, where we can come in and then kind of actually physically discuss what we've
We have
laid
a
out.
meeting Thursday night.
Huh?
I was saying there's
Another one Thursday night, 6
I won't be there
o'clock.
Thursday.
We can't get it that fast, can we? Thursday?
I can't write it up that fast.
This is Wednesday night, right?
This ain't got that much going on. Get that letter
I don't think I can get that letter done.
So we'll get that to you as soon as possible.
Are we agreed on the letter?
Yes.
We need to vote on the letter.
I don't think we need to vote on the letter, do we?
Agreed on the letter, okay. We'll
Yeah.
vote on the resolution.
We'll vote on the resolution when we get that done in January.
I'll get you a draft letter.
Do
Um,
they need to vote on the 600,000?
Well, we'll do that in the
Yeah.
resolution.
So, anything else?
I just had a question about what's going on in front of Wapaka. I saw bulldozers or some kind of big equipment moving dirt again. What's all that going on again?
You're welcome, Aaron.
believe they are having a smaller site for, and some of the services will pack it, so they
For loading?
Correct.
Is that something that's already been approved and the money's already there, or is it, I mean, I just.
There's no
I
allocation.
thought that was done, so I didn't
No, I
know.
think that part is, we are, we will pay for.
Is that on the land that you guys own with North Ferry Group, I guess? Is that 20 acres there?
This is where I'm trying to get clarification.
I mean, I'm just curious, because I've seen it, and I know that North Perry Development Group owns 20 acres there, so I didn't know if, is that, you're saying that that group is paying for it themselves?
I would need to look at GIS's that if he's on that location, but right, the plan is that pay for that.
North Ferry Group is a wholly owned subsidiary of PCDC, that's all it is.
So it's PCDC. Thank you.
I was just curious, I saw the dozers and stuff, and I didn't know, I thought
And
that
I-
project was kind of like on hold for.
I don't know if it's on, I don't know if it's on that land or if it's on land owned by the Development Authority. That's who owns the real estate out there, those
Yeah.
entities, so I don't know, I just don't know the answer.
And that's where I'm trying to get, as we get through this transparency. And Alvin and I've had this conversation at length. So I keep pushing on Alvin to get us the information so that what we can legally make public. Some things we understand we can't, because there's some privacy around it at this point.
Well,
But we're trying to get as much of that public as we can so everybody understands where we are. Once we understand where we are, at least we can get rid of some of the back discussions and continually keep this thing out in front.
I think it's great if somebody wants to land there and wants to be, a supplier to, or a vendor or whatever to Wapaka. I was just curious. I drove by and somebody else asked me and I said, well, I have no idea. I wasn't aware of any current projects going on there, so I thought I would ask.
I think it's definitely
So-
smaller scale than what would eventually occur.
I'm hoping in January we have a lot of this information to report off of this board.
That's the plan. So,
And I'll do my best to get what I can get.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to could I make a couple comments about some things?
Sure, why not? It's Chris's birthday, we don't care.
Okay. This is just informational only. I know in the past, the courthouse TIF has funded whenever there were, much needed things to be done to either the building or something to the parking lot and things like that. I have made it known to the commissioners, and I've made it known to Luke about some things to kind of have on the radar. I don't know where the funding will come from when the time comes that those things are needed, but I can tell you now what I do know. I know that our parking lot is failing. I've had, whenever we had road projects done this summer and fall, we had 3 people come in and look at it and give us estimates on what a top coat layer would be, because they feel that at this point the cracks are too big. We have spider cracks in a lot of places, which means we've got failing. We have, in the drain areas, the pavement is lower than the drain, which is not good. And I have been told that we need a top layer. We're probably talking somewhere at minimum of probably 65,000, because we have a pretty large parking lot. So I don't know when, if, or what point that's going to happen. I know we've got holes out here in the ADA parking. We just have a lot of failed areas, and I know it's not something anybody goes around and walks around, looks around at our parking lot. But if you get an opportunity, it would be something worth looking at. It's never been serviced since we opened. So all we've done is crack fill and sealing, and we usually try to do that every 5 years. It's been 6 years. The last time it was done, it wasn't done well. So I'm just putting that out there because I know the TIF is not as healthy as it used to be, and it won't be growing like it used to be. Another thing that we have that is working, but if something were to happen, we could be in some trouble, and that is our fire system. We have a fire panel, and all the sensors that are connected to that fire panel are end of life. So if we were to have some major issue, fire surge, God forbid, if anything like that would happen, we probably won't be able to find parts. The only parts that are going to be available are sitting on a shelf that may be sitting on the shelf somewhere, but they don't make them anymore. I had talked to Tyco Integrated Security, who we pay for monitoring, and we pay a huge amount to. We're looking into changing that maybe to save some money there. But they never did get back with me with an estimate on what it would be to replace that, because the sensors are connected to the panel, both are out of date. The other issue we have is the call-out unit that's in the back storage room. That is when if there is a fire sensor that sends the signal to the panel then sends it back to the call-out unit, which has phone lines hooked up, and that's where it calls out, calls the office, calls the maintenance supervisor, calls the Custody Police Department, calls in fire, if we have that. That unit back there is end of life. And it's not as an expensive unit. I think we can safely be able to replace that within our budget. And save money on monitoring, and I've shared that with the commissioners as well. So I'm not so concerned about that, but the unit that we have, I've been told by our inspector that that unit is not approved any longer for fire. So it needs, it's end of life, it needs replaced as soon as possible. So we're trying to do what we can to get that unit replaced and change our monitoring system, and the money's going to save. This out here is probably a more expensive endeavor. It's working. We don't often have problems with it, so I'm hopeful that we don't have a problem. But if we do have an issue, then our security at this courthouse is compromised. So that's another thing. So the third thing is always on the wish list is the generator that we have out here. Whenever we do lose power, we did lose power for, I think it was a couple hours here not too long ago. When we lose power, we don't get immediate power here. Our generator is older. I think something happened to one of the panels. It's just not as easy to just hit a button and we're up. There's a process that we have to go through to get power back to the building, which doesn't fully power the building. It just gives us enough for lights and computers to turn back on. It doesn't power heating and air or anything to that measure. But it's a process. I have a long list of what has to be done to turn the generator on. You know, it's going back in the mechanical room and turning off the boiler or the HVAC and the air handlers and this, and turn this off and turn this. Then go outside and do this and turn this on. And then there's another process when you have to reverse it. It's just, you know, one of those things that if we don't have someone around here that knows how to do that, or someone able to come here and help get the generator going, and we, at that point, the day that happened, we did not have anyone available. Our maintenance supervisor was on vacation, the assistant was sick, and Steve Hauser was going out of town that day. So we, you know, those are the ones that know how to do that.
Right.
So, you know, it's just things like that, you know, things that we don't see all the time that are issues that may sometimes need to be looked at. And I don't think, you know, I'm not saying that the TIF is the answer, but it's big ticket items like that. Our 3 air handlers that we have in the mechanical room, they are the original air handlers, and they are old. I mean, we replaced the boiler, we replaced the you know, compressor in the air conditioning
Right.
unit, but the air handlers, the actual 3 air handlers that run 3 parts of this courthouse.
The challenge was the TIF is TIF cannot be used for maintenance, so we have to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It has to be capital.
Got
Yeah.
rewarded
So
some capital.
that's probably through the commissioners or the council, whoever does all that work. They would have to be the ones that kind of iron through that, and then if it looks like it's something that this commission can help with, it just has to come right, it'll have to flip back through.
I would think mechanicals,
I don't know.
equipment.
That's a question for Chris and for the commissioners.
Well, I think, I've been on this board for over 4 years, and I have strongly defended the depletion of the courthouse TIF in the past years. And part of the reason why, as a member of the school board, I felt that way, and I know it is depleting. And I think there's money in there, and it's gonna stay in there and be used for things that can be used for. But part of the feelings from the community that I was getting hit so hard from was, you know, the taxpayers in the courthouse TIF funded the building. They're all in Troy Township. They remodeled the building. They remodeled again, I'm being repetitive, they did the annex, and the people that I spoke to that voted for me in Tell City, Troy Township, said it's time to spread the burden to the entire taxpayers. And that is why part of that's depleting. And as John said, that's gonna be up to the council and the commissioners now to figure out how to do them improvements.
It's, you know, it may not happen for a while, but some of those things, I mean, specifically the fire system,
And Teresa, that's also the reason we have to grow.
we have to.
We have to grow. As a community, we have to grow because we can't keep funding the same thing with less people. We have no choice.
And the TIF is about to expire, right? So
It'll expire in-
we have to have,
24.
Hopefully the
Yeah.
council's
2
budget
years.
for
Yeah.
maintenance of this courthouse.
Yep.
There'll be some amount of money in it.
What'd you say there was, a couple hundred?
250,000
There
roughly.
is money there, I knew there was
Yeah,
a
there
pretty good
is.
chunk.
250. And that's what it's for. I mean, if we have that budget Jason comes in every year and gives us a report, part of the budget's for parking lot repairs.
But as long as it's not
Which is
classified as
cap.
maintenance, where, as long as it's capital
That's right.
improvements.
Yeah.
Gotta be capital improvements.
And
Yeah.
I can't tell you, I mean, it's not
You're
my
right.
place to
Yeah.
say that's gonna be on your plate.
I agree.
It's up to the commissioners.
So if the commissioners bring it back through, so I think keep that communications with them, and then,
And I do, but
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's my due diligence.
I agree.
that
Thank
I
you.
at least put that out there
Yeah.
so that.
at least we know.
Yeah,
You
it's hard
know.
to believe it's building 27 years old already.
There's, I mean.
Paul, you were here when they
Oh,
built
yeah,
this
I
building,
remember
weren't
quite well.
I think you're now.
Not talking about Chris's
Yeah,
birthday
Greg?
or nothing, but.
When we actually did that with that tip and actually did the pass-through, there was a large discussion in this group and then on the council. And on the council, there was supposed to be a subcommittee formed. Charlie Ballmeister was supposed to head that subcommittee to figure out how to get a line item in the budget and find money in the budget to where a fund could be developed
For
for
that.
that kind of,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that subcommittee ever formed. or
That
not.
has not been done.
That is a good question for the council. If
And I think that's, if you bring that up to them,
I-
and tell them that that was discussion, so we need to make sure it gets, it happens, if you want it to work.
Paul, do you know, since you're on the council, do you know? You don't know.
I don't think he was on
There was
council.
some
I
money in the
wouldn't-
budget, I mean, I don't know how they.
Right.
Where would the money come from?
Yeah. Thank you, I mean,
David, don't you have 3 or 4 million just laying around?
Yeah.
Yes?
They fund it.
They do, it just depends on where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
So with that, anything else? We can adjourn? We need a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
You too, Paul.
We have a motion and a Merry Christmas in a second, so meeting's adjourned.
We'll see you.
I gotta say something.
Officially in the minutes.